And so we're just trudging. I mean, we're walking like this. So as I'm walking by, I'm about a block from a half a block from the actual elevation of the ballpark, you know. That's how wide the street is there. So as I'm walking, there's these roll-up doors, you know, these metal doors that roll up. I think I saw one to my left in the wall of the ballpark. Didn't matter, it was closed. So it made almost no effect on me. I saw it, but it didn't think of anything because you couldn't get in through them. They were closed and probably locked. But I thought, you know, I'm going to go over and see if that door is open. So I trudged over. I was walking like everyone was walking. I walk over to the door and I reach down and grab it, never thinking it's going to get up. I reach down, I go like the fucking door, it goes up, it opens like that. And I'm looking up, I was scared, you know, because it happened so fast and it was so unexpected. I look up and I see inside the stadium, there's a ramp.
Yeah.
And as I'm looking at the ramp, there's a guy coming down the ramp with a longshoreman's hook in his hand, like this, and he's coming right at me. He's coming right. But I start walking backwards, you know. It was very, very scary because it was so unexpected. I never thought that door would go up. And I'm walking backward. All of a sudden, all these Italian kids and Bruce see the door open, and they start running toward me, toward the door to run in. And they get to the door about the same time that the guy gets there with the longshoreman's hook. And he closes the door halfway. And I'm there, and he's going like this with his longshoreman. I swear to God, Bo, he was missing my head by that much with that fucking hook. That son of a bitch. He was trying to kill me, and he almost did. And the guys that were walking they came to the door the same time the longshoreman guy came. And I was stuck. I couldn't go backwards because they were all there. And the guy was swiping at me. He was missing me by that much with the hook. I mean, it was terrible. And I was just trying to, the first few swipes, I had to just go like that to miss getting hit. By the time he swiped me third time, the kids had overran him. They stomped him. They trampled all over him. I'm sure he never lived another day physically the same as he did the day up to that time, because there must have been at that point 40 or 50 kids that had converged on that doorway and they had trampled over him. I mean, they just trampled over him.
And what happened?
I ran in over him too. I was like the first one in.
What do you think? So the guy with the hook, what do you think? You think he's that son of a bitch is dead, or you think he just was fucked?
I hope he was dead. I hope he died, but I don't think they killed him. But they trampled over him. They couldn't do anything else. There were so many guys. There was no way for them to get out of his way, and he fell down in front of me, and they must have just stomped all over him. They probably didn't even see him. They just walked on top of him, and I hope he got. I don't think they killed him, but I'm sure they maimed him.
Because he was this close to killing you.
He tried to kill me. He missed by that much. He took 2 or 3 of those swipes, missed me by an inch.
Jesus Christ.
And I ran up the ramp, and I got up to the top of the ramp, and you could see the ballpark from there. It was on the first floor.
But it's dark, save for it's lit at the ring, right? So the ring must have been very bright. So you could see that?
Not only bright, but hot, because the way they lit it was the entire top of the ring, about 10 or 12 feet above the ring, was a canopy of light. It was like a ceiling of light. and they needed it for the TV in those days. It had to be very bright, so that the lights were shining down on the ring. So not only did the fighters have to fight in the heat of the night, but they had to fight under the heat of those lights.
They said
It must have been fucking unbelievable. It's unimaginable how they fought for 13 rounds like that. So what happened was, I was standing there. Bruce, I don't even know what happened to Bruce. He got in too. He ran in with all those other guys. And I didn't see him. When I got in, I ran up to the second deck. As soon as I ran in, as soon as I got past that schmuck with the hook, I ran.
So
as soon as I got in, I ran up to the second deck.
Yeah.
And I went into the men's room. Perspiration was pouring out of me. It was literally so humid that the sweat was just pouring out of me. So what I did was I went to the sink and I washed myself, and then I took some of those paper towels and I started drying myself. As fast as I dried myself, the sweat came out again. I couldn't get dry. Couldn't get dry. That's never happened to me. I would go like this after I washed off, and the sweat would come out immediately. It was unbelievable. So I gave up with that. There was no way I could dry myself. And I just did the best I could, and I walked back down to the lower deck. There was nobody sitting on the baseball field except around the ring. And I'm going to say there were about 35 rows of seats around the ring. Those are the ringside seats.
Like folding chairs.
I was standing in the grandstand. There was nothing between the grandstand and the seats on the field. They were just bridge chairs on the field that the people were sitting in. And I was standing in the stands, and there was a long way from the stand to the back of the ringside seats. But it was still pretty close compared to whatever. I mean, the people that didn't sit on the ringside were sitting upstairs in the upper decks and behind me. So I was standing there, and after about one or two rounds, I thought to myself, why the fuck don't I just jump over the thing here and run up to the ringside seats? And I'll be much closer to the fight, you know?
Because it's pitch dark. It's pitch dark behind the chairs.
It's pitch dark behind the ring.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that dark behind the ring, but gradually got darker as you went away from the ring and away from those lights.
Yeah.
When you got back into the stands where I was, it was dark. There was hardly any light back there. I guess it would interfere with the television, you know?
So you hopped in the cover of darkness, you hopped over the railing and landed on
I thought to myself, why don't I just jump over the rail? I mean, I'm going to say it was about
50,
30, 40 yards from where I was to the back of the ringside seat. And I said, I could jump this thing and run up to the ringside seat. So I did. So I ran up to the back seat in a crouch. It was pitch black where I was. There was no lighting there. As I got up to closer to the ringside, the illumination level increased a little bit. But I got up to the back seat of the ringside, and I'm crouched down behind the last seat. And then this guy in the last seat turns around like this and looks at me. It was Duke Ellington. I mean, I made him like that. It was Duke Ellington. So here's what he did. He looks at me like this. Then he looks away. That was his entire reaction. No reaction at all. And he never gave me another look the whole time. And I stayed right there, right behind his seat.
But he didn't give you away.
No, there's no one to give me away to. I mean, there's nobody there where he was. I don't think he would have done that.
So that's interesting.
It was a no reaction. No reaction. Just went. And he looked like a piece of garbage had just blown behind it. So it was a perfect place for me. I mean, he didn't care that I was there. Sugar Ray Robinson had been multiple times. He had been the welterweight champion and the middleweight champion. And he was fighting for the light heavyweight champion, which would have been, he would have been the first person that ever did that, I think. But nobody, I don't think, had ever been welterweight, middleweight, and light heavyweight champion in one lifetime. That's a hard thing to do. So would have achieved something that but he was the greatest fighter ever. He was great. He was absolutely fantastic prize fighter. He was so beautiful to watch. And
who was Joey Maxum?
He was a light heavyweight champ. He had the title, but he was not a highly regarded or highly reputed fighter, except that he was the current champion. But it would have been a great title for Robinson because no one had ever had won 3 of them in one lifetime. It would have been historic if he had done that. And he did it. Maxum never laid a goddamn hand on him. I was right there. I was as close to him as anybody that night. And he never laid a hand on Robinson. The trouble, for Robinson to avoid him, he was running the whole time, and it was so fucking hot. And he collapsed. It's gorgeous to watch. Never been a fighter prettier than he was in the ring. What happened was, at the end of the 12th round, I think that's right, he collapsed. He collapsed. Yeah. He collapsed and was lying down on the canvas, and the handlers, Robinson handlers, came out. He couldn't get to his corner, and retired. He was carried to his corner. They dragged him to his corner, and they dragged him to his corner. Immediately, they started working on him, and he couldn't answer the bell. So the fight ended right there. He could not get up to answer the bell. It was a one-sided fight as you could ever have. There was never a fight. I saw a lot of fights. Mostly I snuck in to see them, but I saw them. I never saw a more one-sided fight than that. But the heat was too great. I mean, the heat was unbelievable. They took Robinson to the hospital for heat prostration. He was delirious, and he was delirious the next day, as far as I heard.
That's amazing. So people in the audience had passed out. It was so hot. The referee passed out. It was so hot. And then they kept fighting. Sugar Ray Robinson lost 16 pounds during that fight. Can you imagine that? He shed 16 pounds of water during that fight.
I believe it.
And
you can't. It was the hottest night of my lifetime, and I'm an old person. Not many people have lived as many nights as I have, and I've never lived through a night as hot as that. It was so hot. It was wet. I lived in Louisiana then, and I'd never been in a heat like that. Louisiana was humid. It wasn't just hot. It was humid. I lived in a swamp. There was a swamp where I was. The school was the swamp was around the school.
And so you would come back. You had been at school, and you were back for the summer, I guess. That's why. It was end of June, so you would come back from school.
Yeah. And Bruce and I don't know what happened to Bruce. I don't know what. He was there, and he got in too. But I'll tell you what, that damn cook missed me by no more than an inch and a half. I think he took 2 swipes at most, maybe 3, and then he was trampled, I hope to death. But I don't know what happened to him.